chairs back there, you grab those. And if there's not enough, we'll grab some more. The bathroom, single, is through there. So, and I want to thank you very much for coming tonight. This is part of Mesa Seattle, and I was able to get this place here tonight for us. It was nice and warm. Beats the heck out of the garage. It's like minus 40 degrees. Hopefully we're going to have maybe one or two more of these here. So now you guys know where the place is. So it's like good. Okay, further ado, we have a chief in charge.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, really appreciate it, Mark. This is a pretty awesome spot. And special thanks also to Rabbi Sidney, who just took off, but helped get me set up here with the monitor and everything, and is very generous to let us use this place. Welcome to the student meeting for February 2026. Good to see a lot of folks out there. We always like to start off the student meetings introducing anybody who is new or hasn't been here in a really long time. So we'll start over there. If you're here for the first time tonight, just introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, if you have an EV or not, or what brought you to SEVA. How about you in the orange hat? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm neighbors with Dave Barton up there. I have a 94.
Nice.
And very happy with it. Yeah.
Nice. Was that your first EV?
Yeah, I had a Prius before that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess seeing Dave, you got to see all sorts of very unusual.
I saw that I too, anyone really could own an EV with only 8 or 9 hours of work every weekend. Like a good idea, you know?
It's just that simple.
What I needed in my life.
That's about the ID4, right? What about anybody else here? Yes, sir.
I'm Roy, and I can blame Dave too. Don't currently have an EV, but I've been looking in this direction and figured this would be a good place to find out more information.
Yeah. Well, what kind of car do you drive now?
I'd rather not. No.
That's very personal.
The cool thing is, no matter what it is, there are EVs available for all sorts of things and in all sorts of price ranges too. You can get an old used Nissan Leaf or a Mitsubishi i-Leaf for just a few $1,000 that works great for getting groceries and is a good way to get into EVs on the cheap. Or if you need to replace a truck or something, the Silverado EV and the GMC Denali EV, like Mark has legitimately 450 to over 500 mile range, depending on how efficient you drive, and it can power your house and run other stuff from the outlets in the bed. So we're really lucky. You know, when I started coming to SEVA, and there's a few of the old pioneers still out there tonight as well. You know, we had to make our own EV. And now we're really blessed to be able to have such a selection of just buying EVs with so many manufacturers.
Well, I have to admit, I've been watching a lot of that. Read a lot of articles, but watching a lot of this. I can remember when there used to be the home-built EV shows down the E1 parking lot at the University of Washington.
Yeah.
And that was quite a while ago.
Wow. Yeah, I think that might have been before my time too. That's great. Cool. All right, who else is here for the first time? Here you go, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Lucas. My dad, Shango, I think, has come over to these meetings. And we are converting a 1970 BMW 220 into
Way to jump in with both feet.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing, too bad you missed last month's meeting because we had a presentation on a BMW Z3 converter. I'm guessing you didn't bring it tonight, Charlie, because you had to call a bunch of batteries. Yeah. But otherwise, you'll see it around the car shows if you show up in a lot of the meetings. Charlie here, he converted a 1990 1996 BMW Z3, little coupe, like the James Bond movie. But yours is the classic, from the 70s, 60,000. Cool. Yeah. Is it a manual transmission?
Yeah.
Nice.
Keep that.
Oh, keep it, that's the easiest way to do a conversion. One of the easiest ways is keep the manual transmission. And at this point, since you can buy so many electric vehicles out there now, instead of having to build it, I always recommend if you're gonna put all the money and time into converting something, make sure it's something you like. So like a classic car like that is good. And I also think if you are the type of person who likes cars and you like shifting, it's another good reason to leave the transmission, because you can't buy any EV on the market that I'm aware of that has a shiftable transmission like that, and it's kind of fun. And if you have regenerative braking, you'll notice the strength is different in different gears. It's pretty interesting.
Actually, there is, you can buy an EV motor, and it's for a Porsche 911. It got its APP EV, and it's got an electric flywheel. Well, the problem is it's about $70,000, and you have to install it yourself.
But yeah, so it's a kit. I'm not aware of any of the OEMs. The closest I recall is when Tesla first introduced the Roadster, they actually had a two-speed transmission. They had a lot of trouble with that, and so it went away pretty soon. And ever since then, most of the OEM EVs are just direct drive, single speed. Anyone else here for you for the first time? You can introduce yourself as one of our featured speakers for tonight.
Well, I'm Nathan Hughes, and I'm a PhD student at University of Washington, and I'm presenting the research project of electric vehicles today.
Great. We'll look forward to Yu Chen's presentation a little bit later. Well, we also like to go over, starting off with upcoming shows and news of the EV community. Drive Electric Month is coming up pretty soon. It'll be in April. I've already been talking with Bellevue College, and we're going to have the show there again. This time there will not be any food trucks, so we will have full use of the 240-volt outlets below the big solar array. So that will be awesome, like old times. And I think this is one of our best shows because literally hundreds of students and faculty come across the campus, and they put us right out inside of the Student Union building. So I will soon be putting out the exact date. We're thinking possibly about having it on the CEDA meeting night in April, but it's going to be likely the second week of April, probably on Monday or Tuesday. But I'll get that information out to the list soon, and we can have it ironed out. Any other National Drive Electric Month shows that other people know of that are already? I was looking on the website and I didn't see a lot of other local ones yet. Otherwise, come June, we'll have the Greenwood Car Show, and that'll be big again as well, so you want to stay tuned for that. In other EV news, kind of sad and interesting, Tesla has announced they're going to be discontinuing the Model S and the Model X. And on February 14, I believe, so just a few days away, they're going to be no longer offering full self-driving as something that you can purchase and keep. It's going to be subscription only, so they're kind of going the way of Adobe and a lot of the software.
Or at least the subscription price dropped to something more reasonable.
Yeah, let's see.
Announced this office.
That they did drop the price?
Yeah.
Well, that's good anyway.
With 100 or 150 a month instead of 200 or 250. Before it was only take, you only had to keep the car for like 6 years to find it worthwhile. Now it's more like 10 or 12.
Yeah, BMW's doing that crap too.
Oh, I know, and all of them. On my Ford Lightning
seats.
on my Ford Lightning and on the newer ones, they actually are charging you now after 3 years or 36 months, 36 months or 3 years or 36,000 miles.
Oh.
You get of the navigation, and then they take that away, and you have to pay a monthly fee. So,
Slimy bastards, man. Slimy bastards.
I'm happy with mine getting in 2022. The 22s and 2023s, it got grandfathered.
Nice.
So I will not have to pay. However, the downside, and I'll share about it in my big epic road trip adventure, is I don't get map update, so it wasn't aware of all the newest charging stations in the map. The downside. And then they also took away the ability to search for charging stations. However, when it gets really low, they actually give it back. Which is I discovered on a long stint in the middle of nowhere in Nevada. But yeah, such is the way, and the reason Tesla says they're discontinuing it and will be stopping production of those in the Fremont factory is they're going to turn that into producing robots. So if all goes well, you'll be able to get your own Tesla C3PO basically. Sometime soon.
Hopefully it won't kill you. Yeah.
Get a robot to drive the car.
Well, already the cars are driving themselves. There, I've got more to show on that coming up as well. That's pretty impressive. Also, in some disappointing news, Tesla's free unlimited supercharging. Over the years, when Tesla first started out with the Model S and the X, they were offering free unlimited supercharging for the life of the vehicle. And as time went by, that started to cost them many millions of dollars each year. And they've been working with their legal team to figure out any way they can weasel out of that. And so they've been eating away at it more and more. And now, just as of in January, they've started rolling out where it is being taken away from some of the older cars that used to be able to supercharge if they were ever salvaged. So in the past, anytime a car got salvaged, then they would take it away. But some people had gotten it working again, or it had not been taken away. Now they're actually blacklisting the cars, and the superchargers themselves are getting smarter and are able to look at a blacklist of VINs, and now they're smart enough to detect the car. So even if the car is telling it, hey, I can charge, supercharger's like, no, I see you on the list. Sorry, bud. And I think Jay is potentially dealing with that.
Yeah, my salvage title car, which had been salvage titled for at least 4 years and supercharged all the way across the country and back, and been worked on at least 3 Tesla service centers during that time, received the MCU2 upgrade as a salvage title car, was cut off in January without any notice to me, the owner, whatsoever, until I got stranded at a supercharger.
Oh.
Yeah, really shitty. And if you have or know someone who has, I've received a referral to a very accomplished automotive class action firm, and I'm doing my homework towards that end right now.
Right. Good. Keep us apprised. I know.
They even cut off my access to all DC fast charging, so the 100% reliable Chadron adapter.
Yeah, see, that's I think that's so wrong.
So now I'm paying the nearly $1,000 high voltage inspection fee, and the bastard couldn't tell me up front. He could not say, yes, if you pass, SC01 will be restored.
I don't think it will, from what I've heard,
Or
sadly.
said yes.
Well, I hope. So we will eagerly await to hear. I have heard from some other owners through the grapevine that also now, when you pay to have free supercharging restored, it's pay only, which also seems wrong. So,
Yeah, it's all rumor, innuendo, and hearsay right now.
yes. Well, we have a real case study here in our midst, so we will eagerly await what we
Don't we have any hackers here? I mean, this is like a brain trust.
We do, and but this Tesla is thwarting them, and so actually I want to bring this up. Some of this can be blamed on some of the hackers that are already out there who recently started selling products like this on eBay. So here's one for $1,900 that we can buy, where it would tell the supercharger, I'm a CO1, I'm free, and so then you get free supercharging. Or there's one for $800 where it'll tell it, and it will let you charge, but you have to pay. Either way, I don't think that these are going to work anymore, but I think that this is a big part of the reason why Tesla has changed their long-standing plan. Anyway, it's a bummer, and I personally, Tesla has lost some class action lawsuits before, namely Norway and another one where they took away some of the power that had been advertised. So I don't know, it doesn't seem good to me, so I hope that they can make it right. Grace, do we have any legislative updates?
I can tell you that no. Nothing happening in Olympia right now. It's a short session, they're all concerned about budget, and none of the bills have been moving forward at all. So most likely, every single one is dead.
Quick question on that topic, I heard something about an initiative that was being pushed to try and get electric vehicle sales to overcome the issue that's happened with 3 times in the last year. I don't know who it is, yeah, whoever they're supposed to bring it up, basically owns some car dealerships and it's quite different. So, anyway, how that doesn't come to light in some sort of like, pancake story, I don't know.
If there is an initiative effort, I would love to hear about it. So if anybody knows.
Well, that's what I heard, was that there was an initiative, it was, okay, I'll see what I can figure
I would
out.
love to follow up.
There's one piece of really good news, the WASIP, which the legislature created 3 years ago, allocated $112 million from the Climate Commitment Act, is finally set to launch in April, and that's going to allocate, it's going to be a California-style HVIP program for upfront cash voucher rebates for commercial electric vehicles. So class 3 and up is going to launch in April, and so many companies in Washington have been waiting for that to go live. So we should start seeing a lot more larger commercial electric vehicles on the roads.
Those are some of the worst polluters.
Exactly.
We could definitely use it up there. Yeah.
Backtrack a little bit. Does the Tesla, the car, talk to the Tesla charger using CAN bus?
Yes.
That's the vulnerability there, right?
Well, it is, except it used to be that the superchargers themselves were not smart. They relied upon the car to tell the supercharger, it's okay for you to charge me. Now the superchargers, as I understand, are getting smarts, and they're able to select from a list and see. So, yeah, it might still be possible to spoof them in or something, but they're cracking down on the freeloaders that were getting around.
Then you're charging to someone else probably.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. I don't know. It gets rough. What bothers me is, okay, fine, some people messed it up for others by stealing power. That's obviously wrong. But in cases like Jay's car and a bunch of other people, there's hundreds of other cars out there that were supercharging fine. How is it okay for Tesla to basically reach in and say, nope, you no longer get that option? That's what the car came with. That's like saying, we don't like your 19-inch wheels, and Tesla service people come in the middle of the night and replace it with 20-inch wheels or something. Like, it doesn't seem right to me. But in some improved legislative news on the small stage, the city of Yakima, which has the historic Yakima Valley trolleys, they, in the end of last year, did not renew the trolley's operating agreement, which has never happened before and was looking very scary and dire for the trolley railroad, which is the last historically intact interurban electric railway in the country. There used to be many of them all over, and Firestone Tire Company, Standard Oil, and General Motors got together and replaced a lot of them with buses. So you don't see very many of them. Little old Yakima had theirs all these years. It changed to freight service for a while, delivering fruit from the orchard, which allowed it to stay alive all the way up until 1985. And then it was turned over to the city, and they started running trolleys. They'd actually been running trolleys again starting in the 1970s, and then they continued running trolleys and a little bit of the freight stuff, and made it a 501c3 nonprofit that has been running it. But they are in a big deficit, the city, and it costs, according to them, $7 million extra to include the trolleys on 6th Avenue, which is where they run to connect them to Sela. And the city would rather not pay that extra $7 million, and so it's been risky and looking like the trolley's interurban status may be cut off, just as they're about to likely get National Historic Landmark status. So, thanks to Charlie and Ryan and Mark and John and Ron and myself, and in other months, Aaron, and some other SEVA folks, Brian came as well. We've been going to the city council meetings, and it's been making a difference, and then other people in the community. The one neat thing is the community has been coming out in droves, school children, writing stuff and sending it in, and anyway, they were making a big vote whether to renew the operating agreement or not, and to discuss 6th Avenue a few weeks ago on Tuesday night when they had their council meeting, and so we all drove over there. And speaking of the robots driving cars, I rode with Ryan and John in Ryan's Cybertruck, and Ron and Charlie and Mark rode in Mark's Model X, and we met at the Snoqualmie Casino. Both of the Teslas can charge a little bit faster than my Lightning, and so we didn't take my Lightning, we took the Teslas, and nobody really drove. You can see Ryan's just sitting there. We did have one snafu leaving the garage. Mark's car decided to drive up to the top of the hill. Nice. And couldn't find his way out of the garage. But otherwise, really remarkable. And so everybody's been saying, as of an update on full self-driving version 14 a few months back, it's like the best it's ever been. And so you can see the stats on Ryan's car here. Total miles, 7,050. Self-driving miles, 6,955. And Ryan was too. Yes. And Ryan was pretty emphatic about trying to always have it do self-driving. So we went to the storage locker to pick up some signs and stuff. And even in the storage locker, he had it drive it, and I was really impressed. It drove through the storage locker alleys and stuff and figured it out. So it's getting pretty good. Anyway, here we are driving along. There's a bunch of different modes. What are they? Sloth, standard, chill, hurry, and then Mad Max, which is like above the speed limit. It's weaving around.
Mad Max is, the speed limit is something no one's about that doesn't care.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. We played around with a few of them. We were ahead in the Cybertruck since the X had trouble getting out of the garage. So then we put it in sloth mode to wait for them to get out. Then we got the Yakima. Also, as for noting, for anybody who has an EV, if you have a CCS to NACS adapter, NACS is the North American charging standard that Tesla uses. More and more of the Tesla stations that are getting put in are these version 4 stations, which look like that with the white and black, and they have a small screen on them, and they'll do some of them over 300 kilowatts, so they're pretty powerful, and they'll charge up other vehicles. So we stopped there at the Yakima one, and the Cybertruck, I think, is the fastest charging Tesla.
So I'm familiar with two of them, yeah.
This one is near the Winco and the Costco, out by Lone Fiber Road. It's right in the Winco parking lot, and yeah, that's pretty
Been
cool.
the two off of Terrace Heights, exit, there's one each side.
Those chargers come with adapters to CCS?
No, they don't. Now they're expecting you to bring your own. Some of the other ones have the Mavic dock, which did come with an adapter, but now they're expecting you to bring your own to these. But these are some of the most trouble-free in my experience. Also, then you can see on Ryan's little app how fast it was charging, and what was the peak? Was the peak 325, or what? How do you know what the peak was?
Is that over on the chart?
On the chart, it was like 278.
Then it would have been
278. Anyway, my Lightning is jealous. That's a lot of fast charging there. I think that's faster than the Model 3 and Model Y as well.
Yeah,
So.
I've seen 350.
We met my father, who had his Model S, down at the car barn, and then this is a quick little video of, let's see how we get the volume up, of inside the car barn. There's one big electric motor on the wall, which,
Well, you're on mute.
I see.
Yeah. There you go. Now you should get it.
There's one electric motor you can see up on the wall there. It powers all these belts and pulleys that run down one wall of the old shop. This is all like early around 1910, and it runs all the equipment. It all still works. It's pretty remarkable.
Great loose fingers.
Hall. In 1992, it was recognized on the National Register of Historic Places, and now they are pursuing it as National Historic Landmark status. So hopefully we'll get that. We also went into the old blacksmith shop in part of the car barn and saw this old arc welder, which notice is a hand crank starter. Nice. And then the motor inside is kind of interesting. It looks like to adjust the voltage for the welding, it probably is actually mechanically moving the brushes and stuff. It's pretty cool. So then we made a bunch of signs.
Earlier that the slower you drive, the more efficient an EV is versus a camera off the vehicle.
So I have a cabin in the middle of Kittitas County, and we've had to evacuate 4 times now in the last 12 years. And I'll tell you, the thing that makes you evacuate is the smoke. When it shows up, you go.
That's pretty exciting.
I'm curious, are you going to treat part-time or seasonal residents any differently than full-time residents?
We haven't really seen that in question.
Actually, that's important because most of the people that actually live in the forests of eastern Washington are there recreationally. Whereas the people that live in towns like Ellensburg or Wenatchee, they're not in the forests. They're out in the grasslands. They don't have forest fires there.
No, I think we have considered it.
Part-timers are living there primarily during fire season.
I had a question for you too, is that I wonder if you're going to be trying to capture any information about whether the risk of wildfire and evacuation is inhibiting people adopting electric vehicles.
Yeah, I think we can.
I've certainly heard that. I don't know what it is, so I'd be really interested to know about that.
Yeah, we can add that question. Yeah, I think it's important.
It don't be a good one.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any consideration given to people like in a recreational campground that probably don't have a charger and stuff when they're up there? Those are people probably real remote areas where they're quite likely to be in a fire area.
Yeah. In our grant question, we do involve people who live in mobile, or people who don't have a car. So we do.
I actually had another idea that was converse of what I asked before, even though you said you're not focusing on the vehicles, but electric motorcycles are less likely to cause a fire than like recreational motorcycles. I remember they have spark arresters and sometimes people use those, but maybe encouraging people to get electric off-road motorcycles.
Good luck with that.
Another thing I've thought of is like talking about moving slowly when everybody's trying to mass evacuate an area. Well, having a full-size vehicle, that could be bad. Everybody gets slowed down, you're just in a traffic jam. So I thought an electric bicycle could be a great way to evacuate, because like a bicycle is one of the smallest things you can weave through, and then an electric bike, you can have 20 miles of range, even if you're not in great shape, where there's lots of hills. You can get out quickly still with a pretty small vehicle. So I thought that would be a nice thing to supplement, not only for just getting around and as a backup for an emergency to evacuate if you're in a flood area, fire area.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know also you might check with some of the automakers, reach out to them and see what they might be able to share, because in Arizona, my father has a Tesla Powerwall system, and it is connected to NOAA, like the weather forecast. So there's been a time where he has it set for his Powerwall to like charge up to, I think normally only 80%, and yet there's a time where he got like an alert on his phone where it said severe thunderstorms predicted, raising your Powerwall level to 100% in anticipation of that. So that was an interesting thing that Tesla does, at least for the Powerwall. I'm not sure if any of the automakers do that for their car or through the car. Also, I know like with Ford, you can get a charging station for the Lightning where it'll power the house off of the charging station and transfer over, but I don't know if there's any other smarts in Ford's system that is looking at potential storms or things in advance, but that could be interesting if anybody's doing that or something else that you might suggest.
You know, I think that's really good. That's a good question for you to include, is if you do have an electric vehicle, are you doing preparedness such as solar panels and batteries so you can have a self-contained system?
Yeah, and just FYI, your polls.
Oh, no,
Not really re-registration. Unless you want us to register or something.
And
I see it's open
And we can put it out to the SEVA email list too. This is a good time to mention if you're not on the SEVA email list, you can go to www.seattleeda.org or find the SEVA, Seattle Electric People Association School group, and join that to, you can get information out in the survey. And when your survey comes out in March as well, we can put that out to our members as well.
So you might be in communication with like charging network providers, right? Since they're the supply fuel for the evacuation routes. Wanted to mention that like Tesla very regularly during natural disasters, hurricanes and whatnot, enables free supercharging for everyone along evacuation routes, right? Yeah. So in talking to other service providers, hey, you know, Tesla has free evacuation fuel. Do you guys do that? You know, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's very cool.
And if they'll talk to you, please let us know, because they sure as hell don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Also, I have an interesting anecdotal story of a friend of a friend in California who was affected by one of the wildfires in Northern California, and he had a Nissan Leaf. That wasn't his only vehicle, but it was an old Nissan Leaf, and so it did not have good range, and so he was not comfortable taking it when the fire evacuation happened, so he had to leave it behind. Very interestingly, then when he went back later to visit, a bunch of things had burned down, and the leaf, a bunch of the paint was baked off of the side of it, but it did not catch fire and was still perfectly drivable.
No way, that's crazy.
I know, really.
It's like that VW bus you saw in that photo with the Palisades, whatever far.
Yeah, but so that kind of goes to what Grace was mentioning is there could be concerns. Granted, now a lot of the newer electric vehicles have so much range that shouldn't be as much of a concern, but depending on state of charge and what is going on or what type of electric vehicle you have, it could be an issue.
Do you know what the average evacuation distance is for a while?
Well, that's a good
It's probably
question.
the nearest town that's not in danger, I would guess.
Well, almost every county in eastern Washington, in her area, is a valley that has no trees in the base and trees up on the hill, so the evacuation area to get out of the forest is relatively short.
Plus it's downhill.
As an EV owner, if you ever have the opportunity to buy property, you unfortunately don't generally, you should buy it at the lower end, because that way, when you go out, it'll look, your state of charge and everything will look a lot worse, and if you have a problem, you can squeak back in. Me, I'm like at 750 feet, and so it's always a lot worse. It looks great when I leave in the morning, but I know it's not going to be so good.
The smoke, I do believe is the thing. I've spent some time this summer in Stevens County, and so the fires were all on the other side of the Columbia River, but not far away. And I'm driving up, and I noticed it's pretty hazy out here, but I didn't notice it. My car has a HEPA filter, and I stepped out of the car when I got to where I was going, and it's just like fog. And the smoke on the other, you can see on the horizon, it's all smoky. Everybody along the Columbia River there had evacuated those little towns, I heard. And I think it doesn't matter whether you have a gas car or an EV, smoke is smoke, and I think that's the main reason for evacuation. We saw in on TV the fires in California and videos of people driving desperately down a road and then big flames on the side. I think that's an exception.
Yeah, the smoke thing too, I forgot, a number of Teslas, starting maybe around 2016, have the option for a bioweapon defense mode installed, where it actually puts positive pressure from the inside of the car out, and the air filters are really expensive to replace because they're a lot more substantial than your average cabin air filter. But I do also remember hearing some stories of people in California wildfires being very happy going into their Tesla and driving away from it, being able to actually breathe nicely because it's filtered and all that smoke. And unlike a gas car, the EVs don't have to worry about sucking in, to the engine smoke or anything and having adverse effects from that.
Biohazard, I love that.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and then there's volcanic.
Yeah, that's cool.
Boy.
Everything.
Yeah, another thing we want to mention is that if people are willing to, we probably will distribute the pilot survey. This is an email list. If you are willing to help us improve our survey, we encourage you to join the list. And a small incentive is that we will allocate a little bit funding to purchase gift cards, so if you participate in our pilot survey, you can be in our gift card lottery basis, and we will draw some people and then give it out from $15 or $15. So this is an email list. If you're interested, you can put your name or email. Once our survey are ready, we will distribute it, and you guys can help us to give us some feedback on our pilot survey.
It looks like you have to download the Google Sheets app to be able to use that one.
Oh, okay.
And on the topic of fire, next month I will do a presentation on the leaf story was a good, surprising story. This is a very sobering story, and it's actually related to an old power wall, which they were later deemed, Tesla had a recall on them, but a friend of mine had an old power wall that he's taken apart to do some CAN bus hacking on, but he hadn't messed with it yet. He had just taken the cover off it. He was sitting in his shop, and it went off. And the fire only lasted 15 minutes, but the damage from this one little power wall and the extreme, he saw it on his camera because he had a security system, and there was a smoke detector that was tied in with it as well that alerted him. And then when he looked at the camera, he's like, oh crap. He ran to his shop. The pressure from the fire from this tiny power wall tower was so great that when he went to open the door, it blasted him back and knocked him off his feet. And then he struggled to shut the door again. Windows in the upper part of the shop shattered and blew out from the pressure difference. It was really extreme, more than I would have expected. And so it's sobering because that was a little power wall. Yeah. We have much bigger packs in our cars. Granted, some of them now have lithium iron phosphate, and with the battery management systems and stuff, electric vehicle fires are actually far less than gas fires. But if you do have a fire, the lithium battery fires, depending on what your chemistry can be very bad. And this was, I was surprised and like, whoa, seeing the damage around the shop from this occurrence.
I really do watch that YouTube video that I posted about the 8650 cells that they were testing. The fellow from
Mythbusters
was hosting it, and they were basically, he was interviewing some people from a company that do quality control testing, is basically what it was. And they x-rayed a bunch of 18650 cells from good manufacturers and okay manufacturers, and then the ones you buy on eBay. And there were significant variations from their internal structure in terms of quality, which explains a lot of the problems that the cheaper cells have. So the moral of that story being you get what you pay for, and you may want to be very careful careful about what cells you use where. So,
And in addition to the lithium iron phosphate chemistry that a lot of the new manufacturers are moving to, which is far safer in terms of fire. Also, Tesla has changed, all their new cars have like a potting material around all the cells, and it's quite effective. I've also heard a story firsthand from the guy that saw it firsthand where a careless employee drilled through the floor of a converted vehicle that was using a Tesla Model 3 battery pack, straight into the battery pack, with a big drill to mount something, and one cell went off because he drilled right into it. It went right off, that was it. So that's very impressive. And that, you know, Model 3 pack, of course, has all that blue goo that is supposed to do exactly what it did and prevent thermal runaway. Oh, it did? Yeah, it did. So,
Yeah, Western Washington University, they have a, electric car, and they were at a meet, and some other team had taken the battery out and put it in the back of the trunk of the rental car, and it went, and they just had to get out of the way and let it burn, but yeah, it looked like candle wax, it just melted, but actually it's part of their thing, they have to get out of the car in like 5 or 10 seconds in case that happens. That's what they have to be trained to do, but yeah, that was,
all right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen.
We'll finish up our meeting with, it is February, and it's time for our annual SEVA elections. So this is my best Uncle Sam, we need you. Seriously, SEVA's all volunteers. We have an opening for vice president and an opening for secretary. Honestly, both positions can be pretty easy, or if you want to do more to make SEVA better, that would be greatly appreciated as well. Big thanks to Eric, and a really big thanks to Rob. Maybe you haven't seen him all the time what he's done behind the scenes, but Rob's been quite visionary and just couldn't ask for a better vice president. I thought I was going to also be busier with board stuff now that's coming up more, and I would miss more meetings, so you get to hear Rob talk. He's quite a speaker as well. That didn't get to happen, but anyway, I really appreciate it. And anyway, so we do nominations. Yeah, let's give a round of applause for nominations for volunteers. So first of all, if you want to volunteer to be either secretary or vice president, please volunteer right now. And secretary would basically need to come to each meeting. I think we could, if you're a fast typer, that'd be great. Have a keyboard, or I'd be open to getting a second cheap little laptop or something, take the notes right up during the meeting. Or with AI now, I bet too, we could have one that listens and then summarizes it. So I think it can be a pretty easy job if you're somebody that comes to most of our monthly meetings. We'll have to have a secretary, the vice president as well. You can help manage things behind the scenes, also act as president if I'm away and run a meeting. Help choose how we move forward with SEVA.
And for a little help.
Yes, Rob has also offered to still be an advisor, so that's much appreciated. Any nominations for people? Come on, we need some volunteers.
I nominate him. You're very close though.
Yeah, all right, so we have volunteered Grace to be our secretary. She's been doing a bang-up job on the SEVA newsletter, the power outlet. How awesome is that?
I move that she cannot have two concurrent roles at the same status, so shall therefore be known as chief editor of the power outlet.
I've talked to a few people and haven't gotten any commitments from them though. But,
Steve, I can't make every meeting, but I'd be willing to do it.
Well, I appreciate that. So, we have got, I will hereby formally nominate Grace for secretary. I second it. Seconded, all right. And I'll formally nominate Paul for vice president. Second. Seconded that, very good. All right, well, thank you both very much. And we shall move forward now. So, we do have a new vice president and a new secretary. What's that? You're right, I guess. How do we need to do this?
Well, as bylaws say, you want me to show the bylaws?
Does she nominate one meeting?
Look it up in just a minute.
With the secretary who cannot attend every meeting, we might consider making recordings a regular thing. I've received another request for remote Zoom participation by a loyal member who moved away, and there will be a few more of those.
So Article 5, Section 4 says the annual meeting of SEBA shall be held in the month of February at such a time and location as designated by the board of directors and notice of membership. 20 of the members of SEBA eligible to vote at SEBA's annual meeting shall constitute a quorum. We have always said anybody who attends the meeting is a member. So, yeah, you don't have to pay dues or anything to be a member. And then Article 6 is election of officers. Officers shall be elected annually by the board of directors, and officers' service shall be limited to no more than 5 consecutive 2-year terms in any one office, provided however 2 years after such consecutive service, the director may once again stand for that office. A further smooth transition of officers, the vice president and president-elect shall succeed the president automatically on completion of the president's term, subject to approval. That's basically how it happens. Yeah.
So we have a quorum.
It's probably Robert's Rules of Order.
We do have a quorum, yes.
So Robert's Rules of Order should have a quorum.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second, but then we still have to see if anybody disagrees.
All right.
All in favor for Grace's position, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right, ayes have it. All in favor of Paul for vice president, say aye. Aye. All opposed? You guys have that. All right. Thank you.
Yay.
I mean, we're down to the guys.
And I guess we'll plan to be back here next month, right, Mark?
Being summoned.
We're good to be back here next month?
I believe so.
All right. So we'll not see here, otherwise we'll plan to be back here. Thank you very much again. Where did that little donation box go? Because,
Actually, when I
okay.
But I'll send the donation for everybody at this time.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for finding it.
Like, I say this, if you can, pick up chairs and bring them over here, so it's easier for me. And, what else? Garage sale. That's it.
Yeah, one last thing. Mr. Dave Barden here brought some garage sale items, which are on the 3 tables in the back there. And I brought some other stuff to raffle, but the meeting has gone on longer, so we'll save that for next month as well. But if you want any of the garage sale items, Dave, raise your hand. Talk to Dave, go check out the stuff on the back tables there. I hear some of it has prices on it, and some of it maybe even over there.
Next year, so you have my number.
Everything he's shipped, so for the church.
Okay. Mark? have to have their app, you can, but you don't have to. So you can just tap your credit card, you don't need any special funny fob or anything, just a credit card with a gas pump. And this is what we need. And then boom, I'm charging 174 kilowatts, and it's showing me how much I'm adding and what it costs me, just like a gas pump. That's what we need.
How much did it cost you?
This one was bad. I'm still adding up the amounts from the trip. One other annoying thing is a lot of the stations put a hold on your credit card and don't give you the final amount. Because I wanted to have that information for the presentation tonight, but I don't have it yet. And I got weird holds on the credit card charging still for some of the places where it will work out. Tesla's was the lowest at about $20 usually. But some of the others many of them were 50 or 55 bucks hold on it, and then I don't even know what it's going to wind up costing in the end. And this has been days already, and it still hasn't gotten me the advice, or the info. Anyway, here was the priority for vehicles with trailer sign that they had, and there was one lone charger put off to the side. Well, the other thing, both in California and Nevada, the state has put in some fast chargers, like our state has tried to do as well. Those were horribly unreliable. In fact, most of them in California. So the other thing, you've got to have an app like PlugShare if you're going on an EV road trip. Check the user reports to see, and don't be expecting that you'll get there and it'll work. And in Nevada, all the stations between Las Vegas and Ely, where the Railroad Museum was, were out of order. And so it was like, well, all right, it's 238 miles from the last station to there. The Lightning should be able to do that, but here's the other thing you need to check if you're doing an EV road trip, is what is the elevation change? So Las Vegas is about 2,000 feet above sea level. Ely is at 6,400 feet above sea level. So I had over 4,000 feet of elevation gains. It's basically all uphill for the entire 238 miles. My dad was really concerned and scared. Like, I don't know, what are we going to do? I'm like, Dad, don't worry, I got this. We can buy with the old lead-acid Fiera and Nissan Leafs and stuff. The one other thing I love about EVs is if you just slow your speed down, massively affects your efficiency. Massive difference. So it's much more than a gas vehicle. I mean, yeah, sure, if you drive it like a granny, you'll get a little bit better miles per gallon. With an EV, you keep slowing it down, and it's going to dramatically improve your efficiency.
I know I'm not supposed to talk about ICE here, but ICE vehicles, the sweet spot, at least for me, is 50 miles an hour.
Yes. With EVs, generally, the slower the better, down to maybe 25.
Oh, wow.
And it's all good. And because aerodynamic drag, of course, goes up squared, it's exponential. So the slower you go, generally, the better. But anyway, so I decided, all right, well, we'll start out going 55 and see how it goes. And it went really well. And we wound up making it, this is still back. So the other thing is, if you can, at your hotel, find one that has charging and charge up overnight. Then you get a free charge while you're asleep and it doesn't take up any of your time. And so in this case too, I was like, I'm trying to do 100% tonight. So this was a Tesla destination charger. I charged it to 100%. It was pretty cold out though that morning, and so it was staying 318 mile range. These particular destination chargers had a little NACS to J1772 adapter built in, but it wasn't clear how that worked, so I had initially used my own and it wouldn't work. And thankfully I checked it before going to bed because it didn't, I realized, oh crap, it isn't charging even though it looked like it was. So then I took my adapter away, used the one that came in the Tesla station, and then it worked. So
the most common failure on those Tesla Universal Mobile connectors is the adapter stays locked to the cable and will not disconnect in the station like it's supposed to. So double adaptation back to J1772 does work. Nice. Back to Tesla. Tesla to J1772 to Tesla.
Oh my God.
So always carry your adapters.
That Model X family too, I don't know if you saw in the front picture, he had a whole host of adapters. He's been around and seen some things. So anyway, we made it along the long trip, getting up to 2,700 feet, And then when we got to Ely, had 23% left still due to my efficient driving, so it was all good. Near the end of the trip, I'm going 80 again, like, all right, we're gonna make it.
Sorry, real quick, I heard the aerodynamics of the truck is more detrimental to the losing power than actually towing, which I thought was interesting.
It depends, I think, on the severity of the weight or the aerodynamics of the trailer, but yeah, aerodynamics is always a big drain. So yeah, here's more of the version one. Just show you a quick video of the Ely Railway Museum. If you ever get the chance to go see it, it was a non-electric steam version of the Yakima trolley, basically. This little town of Ely out in the middle of nowhere, they left this mining railway to the city in 1984 after running it since 1906. And then it became a museum, and they just recently got National Historic Landmark status, so we talked with the executive director of that and got some pointers. Also in their little room was this old vacuum tube fire, which was really great.
Straight out of Frankenstein.
I know, right?
I was just like, that looks like a vacuum tube, that's big.
So made by General Electric, Mercury Arc Rectifier tube.
Nice.
When I go to that YouTube and see video of those things running, they glow like a bright purple.
So yeah, there were some pretty cool things in there. And then this is in their big workshop. They have a giant electric crane at the top, just like the Yakima Trolley's car barn. And then we've gotten the steam locomotive fired up for the first time in over 2 years, just a few weeks ago. So they're making progress there. And all these old tools, also driven by electric motors, not by one, like the YBG, most of them have individual electric motors. Still really old electric motors, still working to this day.
We just lit her first fire on Tuesday for the first time.
So then, set the distance and made the longest leg of the trip in one day, 840 miles from Ely back to Yakima, where we met my brother. Here stopped for the first time at a GM charging station where they partnered with Flying J. It was a horrible experience. It didn't work at all. And it wouldn't work. I called the number and it said this number has been disconnected. So then I looked on Google and called a different number, got a hold of somebody, and said, what do we do? Can you turn it on and plug it in? It isn't working. And they said, well, we'll have to put a big hold on your credit card first to charge it, and it will take 5 minutes. Or, well, first you wanted me to download the app and create an account and stuff. I'm like, I don't have time. Can I just pay with a credit card? Well, yes, but then it's going to take all this time and stuff. So I'm finally like, well, there's another station, like a charge point, slow one, off the way. It was like 60 kilowatts or something. Maybe we'll just use that. But then I just tried moving over to one of the other stations there, and it wound up working. And so, anyway, this kind of crap, though, another thing that we advocates should advocate for is it's got to be as easy as gas pumps.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm an EV guy. The amount of trouble that my dad had on the way down with the Lightning when he was at non-Tesla charging stations, and the amount of trouble that we had at some of the non-Tesla stations on the way back up is unacceptable. They have to get this figured out. And it should just be, you pay with a credit card. You don't need a funny account or a funny key fob or their app. Just pay with a credit card. Can you imagine if like Chevron decided, oh, if you're going to buy gas from us, you have to download the app and stuff? People just stop doing that. It's ridiculous.
We tried it 20 years ago. Remember mobile speed pass?
Stefan.
Yes.
My 13,000 mile trip around the United States.
Yes.
I probably charged, I think, 20 or 30 of these. And of course, I drive a GM. I plugged in, no problem.
Good. And I had done one before in Ellensburg, also no problem, which was good. So yeah, hopefully they're better, but still, not disappointing. Then at a hotel in Yakima, I went to use the charge point, and it wasn't working with the app, and that was the only way to activate the mobile food station. So again, just stupid crap. Like, you gotta make it easy. You can't make it hard. It's already one of the worst things about electric vehicles on a road trip is the fact that you have to stop longer to charge. If it doesn't work, That's unacceptable.
I put this in on all my ChargePoint check-ins on PlugShare. If the station says off network, it will still dispense a charge if you have an RFID card or you use the NFC function of your card, of your phone, like Apple Wallet, Google Pay. You just can't use the internet in the transaction because the modem is dead, the host stopped paying the affiliation fee, but you will get a charge and it will be free.
I use my phone.
But the NFC, not the web page, not the app.
Anyway, any other questions for me about the trip? Yes.
Did you get a chance to ask the guys who were pulling the trailer what the impact on their mileage was for that?
Yes, and another guy who had a Model Y pulled up and asked a bunch of questions too, and said he has a Scout Scamp type trailer like Brian got. And I have been in a different Tesla Supercharger where somebody had a Casita. They're both the Scamp and the Casita are these egg-shaped trailers, and they were less of a burden than the teardrop trailers. And this same family from Canada had a small Airstream trailer, but it was a little bit bigger than the Alto Safari, and they said that it actually also, even though it was heavier, was more efficient. So that's kind of bad for teardrops. But yeah, as far as that goes, that was bad. Yeah, Charlie the Voters, I'm gonna not do the fire story because we're running out of time.
Yeah, so I just put together a financial report for the year. We started the year at $23,000 and actually ended up at 24. So our accounts increased by about $1,000. And one of the things that we did, so for income, basically we get PayPal and donations is our major thing, and then interest. One of the things we did this year is we have a BQ banking accounts, and we went ahead and opened a money market account and transferred a lot of the funds from our savings accounts to the money market. And that actually resulted in about $150 more than we had been in past years getting for the money. So that was a good one. Of the donations, actually at the end of the year we got a $1,000 donation from Stephen Johansson Family Foundation. So that was unexpected and happy circumstance there. To get an extra $1,000.
Thank you, President Stephen Johansson.
Yes. Yeah. So that basically accounted for why our account actually grew this year, rather than in past years we've been going down about $1,000 a year. As far as expenses, MailChimp, we have some monthly fees there. Secretary of State filing fee for our nonprofit. And then our PO box is actually a pretty significant expense. And then the biggest one of the year is our Greenwood car show, which is actually a little bit less than we paid for the previous year. I don't think we got 20 cars at the show. But all in all, it's a pretty good year for our finances.
Cool. And we'll be ending tonight with the elections, and so we need more people to volunteer. Sadly, because SEVA is all volunteers, we have no paid staff. It's it's hard to put in a lot of the hours if you're not retired or And so I feel bad. I haven't put near as much time into it as I would like, and I'm sorry for that. But also, at least I'm trying, I haven't heard any good suggestions where I'm really open to it as well. How would you like us to spend the money? But at least with it in a money market account, with the way the market's been going so far, and of course you never know how that'll be, but at least it's been going reasonably. And so we've been earning monthly around maybe $38 with the balance that we have in there now. So one of my other goals, at least, until we figure out if we want to do something much bigger or fundraise for some much bigger goal, is if we could at least be making enough off of the interest in our account to cover a meeting space. Well, that's a good first start, because currently we're just a volunteer car club meeting every month, and if we at least, and thank you that we have this place too, we should also donate something to them, and so if we could be getting a little bit of money at least to cover that and not touch the principal, well, that would be good. I'd like to see SIVA continue on and prosper.
So one thing, Brian, I had meant to get in contact with you. The one thing, the web hosting costs, I have 0 for the year. You haven't told me.
I think I discovered this year, 10, touch base.
Okay, yeah, let me know, because, yeah, last year we had
to get transferred into like the club's complete controls. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You might point out, just because we've got people here that might not have been through it before, and part of that expense is that the club pays the fees.
Yeah, so the Greenwood Car Show is kind of like the biggest car show for us over the years, and it's usually like a $20 or $25 entry fee for people to bring cars to the show. And so, you know, for the club trying to promote electric cars, SIVA has been paying all the people who bring electric cars and park as a group at one part of the car show. We've actually been paying for the entry fees for the SIVA cars. I think in one other year there was, what was the other, Triple X. We used to have car shows at Triple X, and we would pay for, we had one weekend reserved, actually maybe 2 times a year for electric cars there. And typically Triple X used to charge, I think it was like $300 or something for basically paying for the honey buckets at the show. But since they're no longer there, I think, well, I have heard rumors that Oakland might be.
Yeah, they might start it up.
I think so.
They've already
also
got their schedule going.
really? And we were also talking about the idea of maybe having a big show at the New Village parking lot, kind of like what Redmond Exotics does at Redmond Town Center. If we have an EV show there, I don't think we'll be doing it every weekend, but Phil's Food was up to helping promote that, and I think that would be a great place to have a big show where we can get a lot of random concerts live coming through. So maybe we'll plan for something like that in a good month like August, and we'll be likely to have it maybe for National Guard Electric Week, but at the end of August or early September. Anyway, without further ado, we are very lucky to have Yu Chen here. She's a PhD student from the University of Washington, and she's going to be doing a presentation called Charged and Ready, Evaluating Electric Vehicle Evacuation Preparedness. One thing I think is important to consider, and I never actually specifically thought about it for my EV, but I live out in Maple Valley with a bunch of fir trees and stuff around, and you never know, there could be a fire anywhere that gets out of control, like the wildfires do, and you could be forced to evacuate suddenly, and it's good to prepare for that. And then for people in eastern Washington, it actually is a much more regular occurrence, and I think that's what she's going to talk about. She's doing research on that.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm Yu Chen. I'm a PhD student in the Urban Planning Department at University of Washington. And I'm going to present our research project today. Let's skip the intro. So, a quick introduction of the research team. We have 3 people in the research team. We have 3 researchers in the team, and one is me and one is another student called Shi Qiping. We are a PhD student in the Department of Urban Planning. And our faculty advisor is an assistant professor in conflict management, but she just gave birth to a baby last week, so she wasn't able to come today. Yeah, and our project is a federal funded project. So you might wonder why we still get funding for electric vehicles. That is because when we submit the application, we get rid of all the physical work. If you are doing electric vehicle research now, you wouldn't be able to get any funding. So on the federal side, we are doing research about evacuation on regular vehicles, but on our side, we are doing evacuation specifically for electric vehicles. So So for research background, while we are doing this research, there are 3 layers. First of all, we all know that wildfire has become more intense in the western US. And people mostly aware of the wildfire in California, but actually in central Washington, wildfire has become a more severe issue now. And second is the increased adoption of electric vehicles in recent years. And it raises these 2 events raises a challenge on electric vehicles evacuation. It raises a challenge on whether the Cuban infrastructure has prepared for mass evacuation, especially in the wildfire-prone area. And right now, most of the research focus only on regular evacuation. Most research didn't consider the specific need for electric vehicles. Like maybe you have charging speed is longer, there may be accessibility issue in infrastructure. So because of this, we want to understand what challenge electric vehicle driver will face during evacuation. And the first step is to understand their behaviors. So our goal for the research is to understand EV users, their perceptions, their behaviors, and their preparedness during wildfire evacuation in order to inform future electric vehicles infrastructure expansion policies. And on the scope, we have 3 objectives. First is we will analyze EV users' behavior and preparedness in wildfire-prone area using a survey. And second is we will characterize some of the key drivers, evacuate decision making, and identify some of the challenges faced by EV users during emergency. And the third is that we will assess vulnerabilities and infrastructure challenges in those wildfire-prone areas. And this is our Cuban research timeline. This is roughly a 9-month research. In January, we are mostly doing this user review, and in February, we are in the process of designing our survey, distribute pilot survey, and also connect with multiple agencies to see whether they can assist us to distribute the survey. So that's why I'm here, because I contact SIVA. And then in March and April, we will distribute our actual survey to our participants. And in May and June, we will start to analyze the data. And August onward, we will start to write the entire report. So this is our survey construct. This is just what we will be putting our survey question. We will first ask EV drivers about their basic information on the electric vehicles and their behaviors, like if ownership, the rent of electric vehicles, charging accessibility, etc. And the second part, we want to know the evacuation behaviors, like what will trigger them to evacuate, what is the preparation time, how do they charge during when they are evacuating. And the third part, we want to know their mitigation and readiness. It's like what people would do to reduce the wildfire risk to their property, and what would they do to prepare for evacuation. And the fourth and the fifth part on risk perception and self-efficacy. These 2 important factors to affect people's behavior in emergency, so we want to capture that. And the final part is understand their experience and their basic demographics, because those are also the important factors that may affect people's behavior. So for our service region, our target populations are people who own and lease battery electric vehicles, and it's specifically targeted residents living 5 counties. So the 5 central counties, if you look at the picture, they are colored in red. So those are the county that has high wildfire risk in Washington State. And for sampling, we are collaborating with multiple EV organizations to assist on certain institutions. So we have contacted multiple organizations State Department of Transportation, they agree on the survey, and also Tesla ownership of Washington. But most other organizations, they either didn't sponsor or they cannot distribute the survey for us. So if anybody here know, like people living in this area who own an EV or have more concrete information about some organization, they can go to the survey, we're happy to take that. Okay. So for expected outcomes, there are 4 information that information we can get from the research. First is evacuation behavior, like specific charging patterns, destination choice, etc. And second is people's EV drivers mitigation and preparation actions. Like maybe there are some certain actions they will do to reduce the damage to the property or to prepare them to evacuate. And the third is the factors affecting these behaviors and preparation. It may be some EV constraints or demographics or perception. And the fourth layer is the emotional relationship between evacuation behavior and mitigation actions. So all of these 4 parts can provide electric vehicles classification on how to expand the infrastructure in a wildfire area. So this is our research so far. So this is the Q&A section, and if you have any suggestions or insights to our project, we are happy to take that. And we also have some question about just asking people how people will use, how people, some of their charging behaviors. I don't have a vehicle, so I don't know. Yeah, I have a challenge when I'm designing my survey. So here's a QR code here. If you scan the QR code, it can lead you to the question. You can either type the question or I can also take oral feedback. Yeah.
I would just say on slide 8, I know it's pretty evident, but you have red, yellow, light blue, dark blue. I would just say, the red's the high, yellow's, I just have like a little key. I mean, not a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have a question. Is part of this calling attention to the potential for the cars themselves? Like, I remember there was one sports car that spontaneously would combust. Causing wildfires?
No. We are focusing on what people will do in an event. So it's really less focused on the cars, more like some of the content on the car. Like there may be longer charging hours that you need to evacuate, or there may be fuel infrastructure available on the roof. So when you are evacuating, those are the things you have to consider when you evacuate.
One thing that helps us, I always imagine of evacuation like in the movies, a lot of cars moving slowly.
Yeah.
The advantage is for electric. Because the cars moving slowly, even if they're stopped, engine's still going. The electric, you only use.
The council room is completely filled with people, and all the way to the outside as well. There's Ron and Ryan and some other people from the community we didn't even know who brought signs and stuff. And here's from the front showing everybody there. And it made a big difference, I think, because this time we had school teachers showing up, and little kids had written a bunch of letters about how they toured the trolley, and my dad, all of us, Ryan and Charlie and Ron and myself, we all gave little speeches as well, and all of that was very helpful, and Eric did when we came out before as well. Anyway, the council, which previously had not voted to renew the operating agreement, voted 6-1 now to renew the operating agreement. So that's a good sign.
Great job, that's huge.
That's a step in the right direction. However, it's still, they couldn't figure out you know, how to get the extra money, and that's still a big concern. So the railroad is operating again, but it is not saved because they still haven't figured out how to come up with the money. But the new mayor who just took over was suggesting, well, maybe they could make that street a one-way street or something to cut down on the cost of the rebuild. So he seemed creative and open to ideas, like they may want to save the trolley. So we hope that'll be the case. Anyway, here we go back home again. Here we were charging 289 kilowatts, so over 600 miles of charge per hour that you would get. More of these are in North Bend. And yeah, so I mean, time remaining to continue trip 2 minutes. I mean, it's really getting better there. You pull in, and it's only a few minutes to charge at those rates. And here we are back at our meeting point. So thanks to everybody who came for that. On the 17th of this month, so next Tuesday, the council is having another meeting. I will be gone for work and won't be able to attend, but if anybody was interested in going over, that'd be very much appreciated. Any help is very much appreciated for saving the historic electric railroad. Also, I want to show you a fun video that ended before the Super Bowl. I'm going to hit the big go in. On Facebook.
While Steven searches, I'll mention part of the ridiculousness of Tesla's you may not supercharge with a salvage car is they won't let me charge at 50 kilowatts on the catalyst station, but they did nothing to restrict the 310 kilowatts of acceleration and 60 plus kilowatts of regen that I have. Just rather. Yeah.
Oh shoot, I bumped something and Facebook isn't working.
You have to log in, or?
I might, but I hate Facebook and I haven't logged in a long time, so.
Oh, okay.
It didn't make me log in earlier, it had the video, now I think it wants me to log in because it doesn't like that, so. Anyway. The next news, so I wound up taking a long road trip and there was actually, let me change the order just because we're going to get Yuchen's laptop will connect differently. So I'm going to slightly change the order and do my other presentation first, and then we'll end with a sobering fire story, and then lead into her thing, because that's a good transition.
That's some serious bamboo.
That's some Kyoto.
All right. So I want to give an update because I did a pretty massive electric road trip. My dad, after he retired, got a place in Arizona. He took a bunch of stuff down there that he was going to take a big light fixture and some things. So he borrowed my Lightning to drive it down there. And then I drove his Model S down, and then we both drove my Lightning back and had a nice little road trip. But it was interesting. So this is me leaving at 7:48 a.m. From Seattle in the morning. I always advise increasing the tire pressures as high as you can. And then I charged up pretty high overnight, and away I went. It was 46 degrees Fahrenheit. On road trips, no matter what your EV is, if there's an option where it will show you what your arrival percentage is at your next spot, that's the way to go. That's how I road trip an EV, because then I just adjust my speed basically while I watch that to see what's happening. Now, frustratingly, both Tesla and Ford, they have the information, but they don't show it to you by default, and in order to bring it up in both vehicles, it brings a dumb menu up that covers half of the map. But anyway, I still basically drive by that and toggle out of it if I need to. With your electric vehicle, you also want to, if you can, put in the destination that you're going to, and let it try and figure out which charging stations to stop at. Different vehicles are better at this than others. When I drove with Jeff Finn in his Nissan Aria down to Kingman, Arizona a few years ago, it was very bad. The Nissan navigation was horrible. It sent us to a few 50 kilowatt CCS chargers where it's like, if you got a 98 kilowatt hour pack here, we don't want to be stopping some 50 kilowatt chargers to take hours. So not all the stock stuff is best. There's other options like a better route planner and some apps you can use that are also very helpful. But anyway, I like, if you can, find a spot in your car where it will tell you what percentage you're going to arrive at the next stop at, and then just watch that percentage, and you'll see it change depending on if you're going uphill or if you're driving faster than the speed limit or slower, and you can just adjust accordingly.
Got to stop at Weed, California, right?
Yep. So I was driving that way. The other thing is, and in vehicles where this will do it, the reason you want to put in your destination is because the car will purposely preheat the battery, and that'll help it charge quicker. I'm not sure if that wasn't working well in my dad's car or what the deal was, or maybe because he hadn't driven his car on really long trips in a while, the pack was just kind of stale, if you will. I always give analogies. Batteries are kind of like a sponge. If you leave a sponge and you don't use it for a long time, it'll get all hard and crusty, and it doesn't work very effectively as a sponge. Batteries are kind of the same. If you leave them sit for a long time, they're not going to give you as much power and as much capacity right away when you go to use them again as they used to. And so it can be helpful to, just like you wet the sponge and wring it out a few times and get it working again, go drive your EV a little bit and get it acclimated to being charged and discharged again. Maybe take it on a nice deep discharge and also charge it up to a 100% charge as well. That also helps the BMS equalize stuff and kind of see where the pack is at. But heat is always good for batteries up to a point. Yeah. But that will decrease the internal resistance, which gives you more power. And so, anyway, I was pretty disappointed. It's been a long time since I've taken a trip in an old Tesla, and this is a 2015 Model S. And at my first charging stop, I pulled in at about 19% state of charge, and it was only charging at 27 kilowatts. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a long trip. Anyway, it did increase a little bit as it warmed up from the supercharging. So that was good. If you recognize Oakmar, had a really good stop with him. He's one of my favorite old EV pioneers. Met up with him in Corvallis. We left my car on the supercharger, and Oakmar took me in his Model Y. He was very smart, and I'm sad I missed out on this, but a few years ago, Tesla offered, if you had free unlimited supercharging, and you bought a new Model 3 or Model Y, you could transfer it over. Holy moly, what a nice deal. So Tesla did that, Oakmar did that with his blue Tesla Model Y, and he, just like John and Ryan, has the full self-driving, and he also had over like 10,000 miles of self-driving, and he was also very touchy. Let's let him do it. I don't want to overtake it. I want to keep those numbers up here. But he said it's just been phenomenal. He just took a trip down to Tucson, Arizona, and all around Texas, and basically did the whole thing without him even driving. And he said the new version 14 is so good, he's thinking it's probably not going to be much time where he's imagining he could be reading a book or going to sleep and just...
don't do that.
It watches you, it manages you, if you aren't paying attention.
Now it does, but we'll see what winds up coming. Anyway, supercharging speeds were picking up a little as the time went on. And then I also came to notice, gosh, on these old cars, the peak supercharging speed, if I don't come into a supercharger below 10%, I'm just not going to be hitting that peak. The best I could ever see on the trip was 126 kilowatts, and it literally was difficult to even get a picture of that. It would hit that so briefly and then going right down. So some of that could also be Tesla trying to encourage people to buy newer vehicles and not liking the free unlimited supercharging ones, which shocking this is. So, I don't know. Anyway, I stayed with another friend in the Bay Area who helped work on the truck club, if you saw that. And then this is, actually I didn't take this picture, but he shared it with me, the Tello electric pickup truck that's coming out. It's a very compact electric pickup.
What's the truck builder name?
Ron, do you remember what's her name?
Yes.
Simone, yeah. She built the Model 3 truck before the Cybertruck came out. And then at superchargers and chargers in general, something I think Steven needs to get out there, and if you're ever talking with anybody working in infrastructure, is I had the epiphany a few years ago that I have never ever seen a gas station that did not have a pull-through gas pump. They all are. But I think because of real estate initially and not that many charging stations, they're trying to cut down on the amount of real estate taken up by parking spots for EV charging now, and so they're not having a lot of pull-throughs. So it leads to things like this then, where luckily in this case the Cybertruck owner was able to pull around behind, but also the cords are so short on the older charging stations that can make it challenging as well. Here's a little video of this station somewhere in Northern California, and I just want to show you that Tesla is still light years ahead of the other automakers when it comes to the charging infrastructure. So if you buy a new vehicle, like for you, sir, who's looking into them, make sure that it's able to use the Tesla supercharging network with an adapter, which most of the new companies have agreed with. If you plan to take it on long trips, without that, my experience and my dad's experience when he drove my Lightning down to Phoenix, he kept calling me, Steven, I'm at a station that it's not working, it's not accepting my card and stuff. And I'm like, really? In 2026, this is still a problem? And it was. And when we took on the trip as well, almost never happened at the Tesla superchargers. There were a few where one or two of the chargers were out of order, but that was very rare. And otherwise, there were no problems connecting. Also, the number of, so at whatever city this was, I'm sorry I forget, I'll show you the next video. This is right across the street from it at the Electrify America station. And there were actually more than there often are at Electrify America station, but still it's like 8 little stations versus there were like 50 under a giant solar awning at the Tesla one. So this was at Buttonwillow Raceway. And I didn't realize, I could literally have me drive out on the racetrack and over to where there's a supercharger, but they have a massive 16 supercharger set up at Buttonwillow Raceway, so if there's ever a racing event down there, that'd be cool to go to. Here's another brand new one that was still under construction, right on the Grapevine, so now we're in Southern California, going up the big pass, go down into LA, and there's, look at, these are all the version 4 ones, there were tons of them, and this is, check this out, 4,000 amps on the disconnect on the utility box. So that was pretty impressive. Then I met up with another friend I haven't seen in, gosh, like 10 years, Luke Workman. How many of you know him here? Yeah. Luke is a smart physics guy and a real battery nerd. And he got married about 4 years ago. His beautiful wife, Erica, and he have started a business called Electric Goddess, and they're right near LAX airport, and they do high-power testing of batteries, contactors, switches, connectors, and so I got a little tour of their setup. He's tested all sorts of contactors for different companies, all sorts of different connectors. He was showing me some ones that he likes. And some bigger Amphenol connectors, all sorts of stuff. And then all the test equipment that he's built up. This cabinet here is ganged up. Wait till you see the back, but it can do 6,500 amps. So if you ever need high cells, I mean, I've never seen lugs that big. This was like multiple 250 MCM cables crimped into lugs to be able to handle all that. Yeah.
Luke Workman, was it the Death Bike or something?
Yes, yeah, he came to Silent Thunder when we had that years ago.
The Death Bike.
Yeah, the one. Yeah. And then this is some 1,500 MCM cable. It's basically the equivalent of 9 4-aught cables in one bundle, and the lug is just this big solid piece of copper. I've never seen a cable that big.
I hope he has one hell of a alarm system.
Yeah. And then I'll let him talk here.
1,500 amp DC load up to 400 volts, and these are lots of power supplies, so that I can charge any voltage or current really that I need. And there's a 1,280 DC load and an 880 power supply rack over there, the 6,500 amps continuous current. And these calorimeters allow us to measure joules of energy released when a cell goes into thermal runaway. This one has never been saturated yet. We've measured over 40 megawatts of thermal power being released at one time, testing some prototype cells that are very aggressive. And this also lets us gas sample to put through a mass spectrometer and determine what species of gas are produced during thermal runaway when a cell's having a problem. So some applications that's really important for like aircraft if the battery's in a confined space with the people. So we have EIS machines upstairs as well, capable of doing EIS up to 240 amps. And this enables you to map the impedance for where the optimization would be to run your cell, particularly in a drag application. You can find how hot is too hot and how long is too much current to exceed this application. We also have reference electrodes we get embedded in the cells so that we can define your reference potentials internally for how much voltage sag is too much voltage sag and how much fast charging is too much fast charging. Where are the thresholds of gigabit for using the cells at the extreme rates. We also embed temp sensors into the cells, as many as 8 so far as the record. That lets you get internal temperature mapping while you're putting the cell through some extreme abuse. Sometimes we find the surface temperature delta to the core temperature might be as high as 15 degrees C or more between anywhere on the surface that you can measure relative to what you're experiencing inside the cell. That's because of non-linear effects that happen, that as the core gets hotter, it becomes the lowest dynamic impedance and the most of the current flows through the core of the cell. And so it's a feedback loop, making the warmer places in the cell exacerbate that focus to be the dominant current path and produce more heat so they get warmer and feedback, making big deltas in their latent cells.
Awesome. So, really fun talking with Luke, and yeah, he showed me some other stuff, both cylindrical cells and pouch cells, where they are literally embedding temperature sensors inside the cell, which is using pretty creative means to do that, so that they can monitor stuff that people normally aren't able to see. And then yeah, these chambers here with big stacks on them, they'll put a cell into thermal runaway in the chamber and be able to measure, I forget the stack had like platinum and other weird stuff, I forget how it works exactly, but like it basically captures everything that has come out of the explosion of the cell, and then they can analyze and see what was produced and how much of it was produced when the cell went into thermal runaway. So their bread and butter business, they were telling me, is for satellite and space missions, batteries and stuff that space companies are using, launching them into satellites, but he also does a bunch of stuff for testing connectors and contactors and stuff, and does some things for automakers as well. So if anybody needs any really high-powered testing, that's a cool place to go, and we'll make sure in the minutes and in the the newsletter to get their contact info there.
Okay, one quick comment. Some of the Rivian charging stations on I-5 or down in California have pulled through. Pretty much every station will have one spot where you can charge with a trailer.
Awesome, and I think Rivian gets it. I did charge at one that I'll show you, which also have that.
Several of the Tesla ones I've seen have that now too.
Yeah.
But both Rivian and Tesla put insufficient signage on those, and by design, it's the easiest stall to enter. So you're most likely to be iced out by some unknowing EV driver.
I was impressed. The Rivian one that I went to did have clear signage saying priority for towing.
Yeah. I have twice stopped at the North Bend one, towing trailer, and somebody didn't need the trailer spot.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, some of the Tesla locations have added some signage.
There is signage.
Please use this last for trailering.
It's getting better, but they're small.
I also wanted to mention, Luke mentioned EIS, and what is that? Maybe you don't know. So it's electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. And you can do up to 240 amps of that. He's learned some pretty interesting things. So for example, that surprised him, and he's trying to drill down now to figure out why this is, because he doesn't know the answers to why, but in a bunch of his testing on different cells, there actually is, it's possible to get too hot, not to the point where you're having a fire, but like traditionally, both he and I have always observed and thought like, well, the warmer you make the cells, the more power, the better it's going to be. But doing some of these tests, that may be the case for short term, but if you're actually concerned about longevity, there is some number that is a good temperature, and the EIS testing is able to kind of figure out where that number is for a given cell. So like on some, he said in general between 45C and 55C is best, and that getting up to 65C on some, even though it might seem like performance is better, it's overall not as good. So the other thing I did in Los Angeles, I picked up this super lightweight spare tire. Lightweight rims will improve your electric vehicle performance. They'll improve your gas vehicle performance too. The steering, everything, acceleration is better about it. And on the Lightning, I had the darn 20-inch tires, so we got a higher trim model. So I wanted the 18, and the spare tires, though, we're talking to the Ford engineer, is the lightest weight one. So now I got two. I'm working on 4, and then I'll have a really light setup. Anyway, back on the road with there, I met a really awesome family, speaking of towing. They're from Quebec, and I'll try in the future to get them to a SEVA meeting or by Zoom, because, oh my gosh, they have some adventures. So this family of 5, they have been all over North America and Central America, down into Mexico. They took their Model X with this neat Alto Safari lightweight Canadian-made teardrop trailer. And he said there were arrest threats down there where they had to bribe Mexican federales and stuff like that.
No, I don't believe it. I'm kidding, dude. That's like par for the course.
I know, I was like, this sounds like movie stuff. Holy smoke. So they got a lot of miles on the Model X and towing that around. That was pretty cool to see. I'll have to convert these watt hours per kilometer later to see what their efficiency was, but I did the math for one of them, and it was like a little over 500 watt hours per mile that they were getting equivalent. They're just really cool family. What a great opportunity for the kids to see the country, and they just stop at interesting places wherever they feel like if they got the car. And this is, you can see the teardrop design, it pops up to give more headroom. It's a really cool trailer, and very lightweight. It uses aircraft honeycomb composites on the side, so its overall weight is about 1,800 pounds. Wow. The other really cool thing that he showed me was he has a 15-foot supercharger cable, extension cord, for rated, he said, for at the superchargers. And he told me what brand it is, and it is available from evscadapters.com. And I've been trying to get one of these for years, but companies that have offered them, they're kind of dangerous if they're not done right. And he said this model is done right, so you push on that and it tells the car to open the charge port door like the Tesla supercharger would. This end, if it's not latched tight on the supercharger's end, it will not allow it to charge either, so it seems to be made really safe. They have 15-foot versions right now for $400. Pretty good deal. Now, the only thing is, it said up to 250 amps. Yeah, okay, rated for up to 1,000 volts and 250 amps. So that's typically up to 125 kilowatts continuously. So keep that in mind. You know, if you have a newer EV or like your Cybertruck, I think that could be risky for it. Maybe you can make a bigger cable. But if you have an old Model S or X or something, or depending on what you're doing and how big your pack is, it might work. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool, and they have used it so they don't have to disconnect as often at some stations. They also had a bad issue that broke one of their tie rods when they had to be trailered, and the towing company attached and broke their tire on. So be very careful if you're towing. Always have a flatbed tow, never have it lifted up by a tow truck lift.
I donated a sway bar link to a tow boat.
Yeah.
My last no tows, no from the car.
So then you'll see here, now I'm in Arizona, it's 93 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Tire pressures are all much higher. Remember at home they were at 45 or so, now they're almost 55. So different altitudes and different temperatures will improve that. The whole total trip down there was over 1,600 miles, 304 watt-hours per mile, 364 watt-hours per mile. So then, my dad and I jumped in the Lightning, and this was kind of an interesting comparison, and because I needed to get my Lightning back up here to Seattle, and we decided to take a little father and son trip to visit a museum and railway museum in the middle of Nevada. Anyway, one thing I do like about the Lightning and old Leafs is they show you where your energy is going, so you can see how much of different things are using up your energy. The other cool thing, and the big difference between an old Tesla and the new Lightning with the big battery, is I didn't even charge to 100% because why do it if I don't have to, and I still have 277 mile range. I got new 18-inch Ford wheels, which are really rare but much lighter weight, at a tire place down there in Arizona. It noticeably improves my steering. It's way easier in parking lots now. When I had my electric Fiero and I put EV1 wheels on, it was an even more dramatic difference. It's like I got power steering all of a sudden, so I just put that out there as well. The lighter weight wheels and tires you can get, it will make a difference.
Is it supposed to, like, the smaller diameter the better for?
Generally, yes. Okay. Generally, tires don't weigh as much as wheels, and so it's better to get a smaller wheel and a bigger tire. Here again, I'm looking at the percentages and figuring out how I'm going to get where I want, but here is an example of now, it doesn't know about the Tesla superchargers in there and some of the other newer chargers, so unless I want to pay for it, I had to use other stuff. And then this is where I discovered that once it got really scared, though, that I wasn't going to find it places, and it actually gave me a list of ones, although it wasn't a current list, but it still, it gave me more. So I stopped at a Rivian charging station, and this was the best non-Tesla charging experience on the entire trip. So I highly recommend any of you, if you find Rivian's Adventure Charging Network, what an excellent deal. They have a better discount if you own a Rivian, you get a little discount at it, but it tells you the price right up front on the screen.